All right, so today we're going to deep dive into something pretty major,
Mm.
uh, the peaceful transfer of power after the 2024 election.
Right.
And it's super relevant to everyone listening
Mm-hmm.
because it really does affect all of our lives.
For sure.
And it's pretty interesting timing given, what happened on January 6th back in 2021.
Absolutely.
We've got some articles from the New York Times, NBC News about the certification itself.
Okay.
Plus, we've got Jon Stewart's take on The Daily Show, which, as always, is insightful and funny.
It's wild, right? Like, even though this election was super contentious,
Yeah.
the system still worked the way it's supposed to. You
Yeah.
know, 4 years ago, we saw chaos, we saw violence.
Mhm.
This time around, it was peaceful.
Yeah.
That's huge for everyone's lives.
So let's get into it.
Mhm.
Paint us a picture of what it was like at the Capitol.
All right, so imagine this
Okay?
snow-covered Capitol building.
Yeah.
The House chamber is eerily quiet.
Oh, wow.
And Vice President Harris is leading this procession of senators over to the House. It was such a stark contrast to 4 years ago.
Right.
It felt almost like a solemn ceremony.
The New York Times article talked about how lawmakers from both sides were reading the electoral votes, the declarations of authenticity,
Yeah.
and they even pointed out these applause lines that really highlighted that partisan divide.
That's the thing, right? Even though the process was peaceful,
Right.
that underlying tension,
Yeah.
it's still there. It didn't just disappear.
It's like everyone's kind of like silently saying, yeah, our side won,
Exactly.
even though it's about the peaceful transition overall.
Right. And think about Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
She literally had to certify her own loss to Trump.
I can't even imagine.
Tough spot.
Both the Times and AC News really focused on her composure, though.
Okay.
They talked about her intense stare.
Yeah.
They even mentioned her smiling at some points.
Interesting.
It's definitely a far cry from how things went down in 2020 when Trump wouldn't concede.
Totally different vibe.
Yeah.
What was really remarkable, though, was her commitment to her constitutional duty.
Okay.
You know, despite the fact that she had lost,
Right.
NBC even quoted her saying, quote, "Democracy prevails,"
Wow.
when they asked her about presiding over the certification.
Powerful.
And then, in this video message she released, she talked about her role as a, quote, "sacred obligation."
Those are strong words.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about how different leaders handle these situations and what that actually means for the country as a whole, for all of us.
I think what she did really shows that even when you lose, respecting the process is crucial.
Yeah.
Because that's what creates stability and predictability in a country.
Right.
And that affects everyone's daily life.
For sure.
Think about it affects the economy,
Yeah.
our sense of personal safety,
Yeah.
even our faith in government.
Okay, so let's lighten the mood a bit.
All right.
Jon Stewart, of course, had some hilarious commentary on this.
Oh, he always does. Always insightful. Never one to shy away from the tough topics.
So what did he say?
He pointed out the irony of Harris having to basically attend her own funeral,
Oh, my God.
with everyone cheering for the other side, no less.
Oh, man.
And then he joked about how smoothly democracy works, when people accept the results and don't act, well, let's just say he used a more colorful term.
He's got a way with words.
He does.
But his humor actually highlights a really important point, right?
Totally.
This peaceful transfer of power really depended on people accepting the results, even if they were disappointed.
It did.
Which brings us to the big question.
Okay.
What does this peaceful transfer of power really mean for everyday people?
Right. For people like you and me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the articles we read don't really address that directly,
Okay.
but I think we can draw some conclusions.
So tell me more.
Let's think about it. When the transfer of power is chaotic,
Yeah.
like it was in 2021,
Right.
it creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear.
Uh-huh.
Businesses hesitate to invest. People might feel less secure, and government services can get disrupted.
Yeah.
That affects your job, your community, your overall well-being.
So even though it seems like this is something that only affects politicians,
Right.
it actually has a huge impact on our everyday lives.
It really does. It creates this environment of stability
Right.
and predictability,
Okay.
which impacts things like the economy, personal safety, and even our faith in government.
So things that we all experience every day.
Exactly, the things you experience every single day. And it goes even deeper than that,
Okay.
Imagine a world where you feel safer expressing your political views.
Oh.
You're having more productive conversations with people who might disagree with you, and there's just less tension in your daily interactions.
That sounds pretty ideal.
Right. It's the kind of impact that a decrease in polarization could have.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But is that realistic?
Well,
Our country is so divided right now.
it might seem idealistic,
Yeah.
but this peaceful transition could be a step in the right direction. It's not just about these big political events.
Right.
It's about how they trickle down and affect how we interact with each other every day.
So you're saying this peaceful transition could actually make our everyday lives less stressful
Potentially, yes.
and more harmonious.
It's a sign that despite our differences, we can still function as a society.
Okay.
We can respect democratic processes, and we can avoid that kind of upheaval that throws everyone's lives into chaos.
Right, I get it.
Yeah.
But what about the long-term effects?
Okay.
I mean, is this just a temporary break
Yeah.
before things go back to the way they were?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
The future is uncertain,
Yeah.
but I think this event gives us a framework for how things could be.
Okay.
It's a reminder that peaceful transitions are possible,
Right.
even in a really charged political environment.
So what should people be paying attention to going forward?
Good question.
Like, what are some signs that this positive trend might continue?
Well, I would say keep an eye on how political leaders and parties behave.
Okay.
Are they respecting democratic norms even when they lose?
Right.
Are they upholding the rule of law?
Yeah.
Are they actually trying to find common ground
Okay.
and address those real issues that affect people's lives?
So it's not just about the big speeches and ceremonies.
No, it's not.
It's really about the day-to-day actions
Sure.
and decisions that shape the political landscape.
Right. Another thing to pay attention to is how political discourse is evolving.
Okay.
Is there more room for respectful disagreement?
Right.
Are people more willing to listen to opposing viewpoints?
Yeah.
Or are we just retreating further into our own echo chambers?
It's like, are we actually having productive conversations about the issues, or are we just shouting at each other
Exactly.
from across the political divide?
Right. And finally, I think it's important to keep an eye on public trust in institutions.
Okay.
Do people feel confident that elections are fair? Do they trust the courts? Do they believe that the government is working for them?
Because if people lose faith in those institutions,
Yeah.
it creates instability and unrest.
Exactly.
And that's when things can really start to affect your daily life.
in a very real and tangible way.
For sure.
Think about it. When people feel like the system is rigged against them,
Yeah.
they're more likely to disengage,
Okay.
become cynical,
Right.
and even resort to extreme measures.
Like, that's not a recipe for a healthy society.
It's
Or
not.
a stable democracy.
Right. So I think this peaceful transition is a positive sign,
Okay.
but it's not a guarantee of a rosy future.
Right.
We still have a lot of work to do to strengthen our democracy and build a more just and equitable society.
Absolutely. And that work starts with all of us.
It does.
I mean, we can't just sit back and expect things to magically get better.
Right.
We need to be active and engaged citizens.
Okay. Holding our leaders accountable and demanding better for ourselves and our communities.
So bringing it back to the everyday person,
Yeah.
how might this event impact their lives in the long run?
Well, think about the things that affect your day-to-day experience.
Okay.
The economy, your sense of personal safety, your ability to access healthcare education, other essential services.
Okay.
These are all influenced by the stability and the functionality of our government.
It's like the things that make life livable.
Exactly. When there's political instability, uncertainty,
Yeah.
it can have a ripple effect on all those things.
Right.
Businesses might be hesitant to invest.
Right.
People might feel less secure in their community.
Yeah.
Government services might be disrupted.
So it's not just about the political drama playing out in the news.
Right.
It's about how those events translate into real-world consequences for everyday people.
Exactly. Now let's contrast that with a peaceful, stable political environment.
Okay.
When people feel confident in the government in the future,
Right.
they're more likely to invest, spend money, participate in civic life.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
It is.
Stability breeds more stability,
Oh.
leading to economic growth, improved social cohesion, and a greater sense of well-being for everyone.
Exactly. And that can translate into a better quality of life for you, your family, and your community.
Okay.
More job opportunities, safer neighborhoods, better schools.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of tangible benefits that flow from a stable and functioning democracy.
So this peaceful transition It doesn't solve all of our problems,
Right.
but it does give us hope that we can move forward as a nation,
Yeah.
address the challenges that we face, and create a better future for all Americans.
That's the key takeaway here.
Okay.
It's a reminder that despite our deep divisions, we still have the capacity to come together,
Yeah.
uphold democratic principles, and create a more perfect union.
It's like this peaceful transfer of power wasn't just about one event.
It wasn't.
It was about reaffirming the values that underpin our entire democracy
For sure.
and reminding ourselves that we have the power to shape our own destiny.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the question,
Okay.
what do you think this means for the future?
How do you see this impacting your own life,
Yeah.
your community,
Mhm.
and the country as a whole?
We've given you the information, the context, and the different perspectives.
Right.
Now it's up to you to draw your own conclusions
Okay.
and decide what role you want to play in shaping the future.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
This deep dive wasn't just about learning about a past event.
Right.
It was about empowering you, the listener, to think critically about the present and the future.
And to understand that even in a complex and often chaotic world,
Yeah,
your voice matters. Your
Yeah.
actions matter.
absolutely.
And you have the power to make a difference.
Yeah, it's like we were given this glimpse of what could be, this vision of a future where political differences don't automatically lead to violence and disruption in our lives.
Yeah.
But how do we actually make sure that this isn't just a one-time thing?
Right. Like, how do we make
Yeah.
it last?
Yeah, how do we make it a lasting shift towards a more stable and functional democracy?
That's the big question.
So let's get practical.
All right, okay.
What can everyday people, like our listeners, actually do to make sure that this positive momentum keeps going?
Well, first, I think it starts with awareness.
Okay,
You have to pay attention to what's happening around you,
right.
both in your community and on the national stage.
Yeah.
Don't just scroll past the headlines,
Mhm.
Actually engage with the news, think critically about the information you're consuming,
Right.
and really be aware of the issues that are at stake.
It's like, don't just let the news wash over you.
Exactly.
Actively seek it out, analyze it,
Yeah.
and figure out how it connects to your own life, to
Yeah.
the lives of people around you.
The more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to participate
Oh.
and make your voice heard.
So knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
No.
But it's not just about absorbing information.
Right.
It's about using that knowledge to have conversations
Yeah.
and take action.
So what does that actually look like?
Well, it could be as simple as, having a conversation
Okay.
with someone who has a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
It could mean going to a town hall meeting,
Yeah.
writing to your elected officials,
Okay.
or volunteering for an organization that you believe in.
So take that knowledge and turn it into action.
Exactly.
We don't just sit back and complain.
Yeah, get involved. Be part of the solution.
Right. And it's not about always agreeing with each other.
No, not at all.
Democracy kind of thrives on debate
Exactly.
and this exchange of ideas.
It does. The key is to engage in those debates respectfully
Okay.
and constructively,
Yeah, even when you disagree passionately.
even when you disagree passionately.
So listen to understand,
Yes.
not just to respond.
Yeah,
And be open to changing your mind when you're presented with new information.
right. Or a new perspective.
Right. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't.
It's a long process. It's
Yeah.
messy.
It is.
But each small step we take, each conversation, each action, they all build towards a stronger and more resilient democracy.
It's like we're all weaving this tapestry together.
Okay.
Each thread might seem small on its own,
Yeah,
but together they create this beautiful and intricate work of art.
I like that.
And that tapestry represents the future of our country.
Okay.
A future where these peaceful transitions of power are the norm,
Right.
not the exception.
Yeah.
A future where we can disagree without resorting to violence or division. A future where every voice is heard and valued.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the peaceful transfer of power,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
What thread will you contribute to the tapestry of our democracy?
What small action can you take today to make a difference in your community, your country, and the world?
Because even those smallest acts of kindness, of courage, of engagement, they can create positive change.
They can. And that's what gives me hope for the future.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep learning.